First up, we have public comments. Sir,
I'd just like to say, Jamie Potson here is doing a fantastic job as bus coordinator.
thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Gene.
We can do something.
Did Van say that?
I did not.
Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. Next, we will have superintendent's reports.
Thank you. So my name is Tim Payne. I'm the superintendent of schools. I appreciate, folks. Been 2 months since I've been back to Arlington, so I appreciate folks' patience with us this evening. We'll move the agenda around a little bit. I will not do much talking this evening, which no one's gonna hate. What I am though is bringing a series of presentations. And we've been offering these presentations at all the boards that I serve. We have a deliberate plan around them. So in September, we talked about staffing, or sorry, in August, we talked about staffing. In September, we talked about building maintenance. And apologies, we missed Arlington meeting last month. This month, our purpose is student achievement, and we're gonna talk about grants a little bit to show folks how we use grant money in the district. And next month, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about student services. All of this is hopefully providing information for the community and the board. So as we go into a budget season, which I think most folks are aware that a little bit of a different year, there's uncertainty at the federal level, definitely uncertainty at the state level. So trying to provide you with useful information that you can take and consider as you go forward. All the presentations are eventually posted on the SDSU board, so website. So if you want, I missed that. I'd like to go back and see what they said about staffing, what they said about the building. Building ones especially are specific to your school, so you can go ahead and take a look at that and see what the report out was. This evening, we'll share some information along that lines as well. So again, our purpose is to try to be consistent, tell folks in advance what we're talking about. If it's a topic that you're interested in, great. If it's something you don't have time for this evening, you're going to the soccer game shortly, want to check it out later, you can do that as well. Okay, so what I brought is I have two members of my staff here this evening. Melissa Senecal, she is Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. She's going to talk about student achievement. And Renee Gordon is with us via Zoom. She is Director of Finance, and she'll be talking about grants this evening. And once they're done, we're happy to take any questions from the community if you have any interest. I'm going to try. It's struggling with me to do that from this computer to there.
It also says there are two people in the waiting room.
I can manage that. I'm having to manage this. I don't know why it's not saying that on the post, but it's letting me.
It
control
might
that.
be, the other reason I moved and wanted over here is if anybody wanted to see the screen, because that's where it's projected, I don't want to have my head in front when you were trying to. You guys.
I have one anonymous person too. Is policy of the board to let anonymous.
If they can identify themselves verbally, it's fine.
We have one. Oh, I can. Have to admit him first. Chair, want to ask?
Whoever is on as anonymous, can you identify yourself? Not even sitting in.
They come back, I'll redo it.
Projecting or just too many hands. I have my computer too.
How'd you do that? 'Cause mine's, sorry, it's not good. Thing it's.
They're here, they should be there. They just want to see it.
So while she's pulling that up, the September report that you referenced on facilities and operations, was that a document?
It's a
Specific to Arlington?
slideshow presented to that, so you can click on the SVSU website, you should see that under minutes for the meeting, it should be in a document attached. If you don't, would you do me a favor and just let me know? That was the request that we presented to the community and if it wasn't done.
And is it building specific within?
It is.
Workforce? Okay.
Yep. So you will have to go through slides of other facilities.
I just wasn't sure what was presented. Okay.
Absolutely. Anything I did would help you, because I clearly brought the wrong computer for this job.
You're doing just fine. It's just allowing me on the Wi-Fi. It's taking a little bit longer, so. I apologize to everyone for waiting.
Again, what we're hoping, we'd like feedback from the community as well too, is if you find the presentations to be helpful. Some feedback as a new superintendent that I got is that many times we come to presentations and we download a whole lot of jargon and throw a lot of numbers at folks, and folks would leave meetings and say, I'm not any smarter for sitting here for a half an hour listening to this. So if you have feedback, I encourage folks to talk to the chair, your board members, to your principal, and say, hey, it was pretty helpful, or else we could absolutely tweak things going forward.
A little bit more time. I'm on Route 7 on the way to Arlington. I'm almost there.
While you're getting on, why don't we just take care of some of the things? Good. Next, we have consent agendas, which is included. We have minutes from our August 13th and August 26th special meeting.
Are they in there? I don't see minutes in the folder.
In the folder. We have warrants, which are enclosed here. We do have a retirement. Ross has submitted her letter for retirement. We have no leave of absences, no resignations, no nominations, no field trips. So we'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda minus the minutes. Is there a second? Discussion.
To sincerely thank Dana. I know it's not until the end of the school year, but to thank Dana for her dedicated service.
Yeah, very good teacher.
Note that it was submitted prior to the October 1 deadline.
Yes, we will. It was.
It was a September meeting and not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is noted. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody?
Aye.
Folks, can I be clear, there's no minutes from the last meeting in your.
No minutes in the folder.
I have them, I have meeting minutes from August 26th, August 13th.
It could have been in the September folder, but we didn't have a September meeting and they weren't carried forward into the.
So you need, you're looking for August minutes, then is that what you're looking for?
I can just approve them.
Okay.
Okay.
So the host, so I can project. I'm
That's
sorry.
fine. That clearly competency is going to be today.
Also, while you're doing that, we moved the finance. I have fund balance on here. I emailed that out to everybody, so everyone had the copy of the fund balances. While we have Renee, just in case there are questions, and Renee can correct me if I'm wrong in saying this. So we approved the purchase of a diesel bus last year. Because it was not noted in the minutes, the money was not removed from the bus reserve fund and paid to pay for the bus. Bus is paid for. It came out of our general budget. The good news is, even with it out of the general budget, we have an unaudited projection of having a fund balance at the end of the year in the neighborhood of 200,000. Accurate?
Yes, that's how it looks right now. We're still trying to get the books closed. So there could be minor adjustments to that one way or the other. But you're definitely looking to be in the black. So moving those funds was not necessary, but we could if you wanted to. I would recommend just leaving it in the bus fund in case you need down the road to pursue purchasing another one.
So I asked for action requested on that, just in case the board decided they wanted to take action to move the money out of the bus reserve fund to pay for it rather than paying for it. It does not mean you have to take that action. I wanted it there, so it's.
I can think of any.
You can, but it's already been paid for, so. It would be. My recommendation that we leave it in there for future use. You're up, man.
Thank you so much. So. Here. And. See, full screen. Presentation mode. Okay. Wanted to move it all, you can see, I'm sorry. I can show you a minute also where this is going to be on svsu.org about us reports. This is exactly where this is going to be. So one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we told you how we were doing with our continuous improvement plan goals. And those are from 2024 to 2027. This is the fall 2025 report. I've given the sources of data that we have pulled from both academic, social, emotional behavior, and attendance, which was tackled very much so this past year. We have acronyms. We're sorry. Some of the big ones that you want to see here, the first four are all acronyms for testing for pre-K, because it's important to know as kids coming in from pre-K how they're doing. FastBridge that you see there is a benchmark and some progress monitoring that we use for ELA, reading, and math. IXL, that's a progress monitoring tool for math. It's really important. You've heard probably a lot in the last, I don't know, 20 years or so about MAPS or NWEA, and that's the benchmarking that we do in grades two and up for math and 3 and up for reading. VTCAP or VTCAP is what the Vermont State assessments are. And so you'll be seeing some of those results in here. The SRSSIE is, boy, that's not very clear, is it? I apologize for people that unless it's just me and my glasses. That is the internalizing and externalizing that we do benchmarking for. So that's the behavior screener that we use through the University of Kansas. We have writing benchmarks that we use 3 times a year. The science assessment that you'll see are based on the next generation science standards, and that's a summative assessment done 1 time a year in the spring. And then the survey that you see there is done twice a year. And again, we get that through the University of Kansas, and that tells us how we're doing with our multi-tier systems of support. So I apologize, I'll try not to use any of the acronyms, but you're going to see them in the presentation. And so the second page is always a good reference. So attendance, if you don't have them in here, it's tough to make any progress. I want to show you how we're doing so far with attendance. The number of students that were meeting the definition of Vermont by chronic absenteeism by the dates. If we plucked the dates of those for all schools in May of 2024, and you can see that number, 315. And then, so what we decided to do is say, how are all of the things, and you can see the examples of initiatives and funding that are supported by all of you in the community, all of the things that we've been doing. And look where we cut that number to. I can tell you that the team wants to do better, but look at the decrease, and they're very proud of that, and they want to continue doing that. Every single school in the supervisory union, all 3 districts, every single building had a decrease in that year. And so that was great progress. Goal number 1 is safe and healthy. I did some definitions, again, to take a closer look later, because you might say, what's internalizing behavior on the screener? What's externalizing behavior? So in that lower left-hand corner, I gave some examples. You know, examples of internalizing is anxiety and chronic worry. I believe that you might have had a little bit when the presentation didn't come up, but it happens in life. But it can go into some pretty significant things we want to measure and adapt to, of depression and sadness and social withdrawal. And so we want to address those proactively with our kids. And then definitions of externalizing behavior. That's the aggressiveness, the impulsivity, some of those examples. So we've got Some questions to answer by June of 2027. Do our schools implement a multi-tier systems of support? Our goal was 80% or higher. How did we do with spring of last year results? Over 78%. We're on our way. Do we have most of our students at low risk for those internalizing behaviors? We want to set a goal of at least 70%. Right now, we're at 58.1. How about those externalizing behaviors? We have a goal of 70%, again, guided by our consultants. We're a little over 63%, had low risk, it's positive for externalizing behaviors.
What do you figure, where do you come up with your goal, like 80%? Is that something you guys made up?
Awesome. Yep. So those goals right here are all from the University of Kansas, our consultants. Yep, that's excellent question. Thank you. And they came in to give us, so what would be a goal with a really fully functioning, reasonable, we're meeting everybody's needs. We're not going to have everybody be low risk because there's going to be times, I know it happens. And everybody shows up, we're a public school system, so we have to meet the needs of everyone. So what would be reasonable would be a fully functioning system. Where do we want to set our goal? They've told us we can go beyond that. We're looking really good on a lot of levels. We do have some more work to do, but I do want to thank the board and the community for supporting some of how we're making the progress. Some examples, these are just some. I had to make it brief where it was going to fit on a slide to say thank you for the ongoing professional learning of best practices in classroom management. A lot of those come from title funding. I also think of the mentors and mentees that we have. I could have put that up there. I apologize. Again, I could have gone on. Ongoing coaching and best practicing that happens in all schools for social emotional learning. Screeners and information systems that you see to collect that data to make decisions, that comes from local funding. And we need all of those to continue making progress. So how about some academic goals? Goal number 2 is an academic proficiency goal with English language arts, i.e. I might reference it as reading as I'm talking about it, but it's reading, writing, speaking, listening. And so this top one that is full of all of that big box, it's, are our students leaving 3rd grade with foundational literacy skills? Okay, if you don't know what those are, I've listed those there. And they're where every norm where we want all kids to leave 3rd grade. We'd love them to start 3rd grade there, but we want them to definitely leave 3rd grade with those foundational literacy skills. So they're going off to just building their fluency and their comprehension and their vocabulary. And they're really ready to fly. And so we said, what's our goal to have students are leaving 3rd grade with those foundational skills? We were at 61%. We might have to adjust that goal. We like that. That's a great thing. If we can adjust our goal to say, hey, when we look at our scores next spring, we want to go even more than 65% because we have a whole other year to make it up. Why not just go ahead of it?
When you say you're at 61%,
Yeah.
how do you find that out? Do you give them a test at the end of the year and see where that's what we're doing?
Yeah. That's exactly. These are based on fall testing results, a combination of FastBridge and also something called the core phonics. So it's all of those foundational skills that are listed here. Phonemic awareness.
Is that statewide or using the same tests?
So there is not a statewide test at this time. But because we have something called Act 139, which there'll be a presentation about if you'd like to come or visit, and there's a link on the website on October 16th to talk all about it, and it's all about literacy and what's going on in Vermont literacy. And the presentation is, so how is the SVSU doing with Act 139? How are our kids? It's Read Vermont. I mean, who can't get behind Read Vermont? At this time, the state has not given us a test, but they have cleared to use these tests to answer that question. They've said, yep, you're using the correct tests because we have to upload all of those into a grant management system. They look at all of the things that we use and they go, yep, or we have some more questions. They had no questions. These are fully vetted and normed assessments, but that's a really good question. Thank you.
Are you breaking it down by schools as well, so that
So I want to wait.
the board would know where?
Yeah. So I want to wait until the end because this presentation, which I'm not going fast enough, I'm sorry. I get excited about this stuff, so I will try to go and you're gonna get to the goals that each school set. And then we want to take feedback from you about how you like the presentation, so we can continue to do what you want at a board level. So there's more to come. This is how do you like the container? Here's the big picture. You are going to see each school's goals, which were based on data analysis done by each building for this current school year. It's done by that. So it's coming. This is also reading proficiency. That next one is about how are they doing, and that's grade level. We want our kids to be at least 60% would be on grade level for reading, and right now we're at 56. And the next one down is about growth. So how much did they grow? Did they meet their growth? And we were above we're very close, sorry. We're at 59% and we want to be at 60%. So we're very close with growth. So continuing with growth, how do we do compared to the state? So many people have asked in years past, how are we doing compared to the rest of the state of Vermont? So this is longitudinally for the last couple of years for the most current data that's available to us to release publicly, the reading scores, and we're right on track with Vermont. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive for even being better than, but we are right on track for the last few years with the state of Vermont for reading. So some examples, again, I want to thank the community and the boards for funding things like ongoing professional learning in that science of reading, which is also part of Act 139. The ongoing coaching and literacy strategies for all schools, so teachers have those tools for those students that are either behind on grade level or above. The assessment tools and progress monitoring tools to tell not just all of you, but the teachers to make those instructional decisions in their classrooms. Really important. Thank you for those funds. And then those primary resources that are aligned with the science of reading that are in all schools, K through 8. So thank you for those funds for those. How are we doing with math? We have two things. We look at grade level. That's the one that says proficiency. And then we have the growth. How are we doing with people, every single individual meeting or exceeding their growth? And you can see our growth outpaces our proficiency, but we have a ways to go. We continue to grow. How are we doing compared to the state? We're right on track with the state of Vermont. We are both approaching. The state of Vermont is approaching for the last couple of years for release data, as are we approaching. This is how it's released. Examples to thank you for what's funded for math that's helping us with this growth. The ongoing professional learning conceptual math instruction, the primary resources that are aligned with those for teachers to use. And then again, those assessment tools so that teachers can make instructional choices and decisions based on what kids need. They get to know by having those pieces of information. We have our goal number 4 is science. And we had a how are we doing? Our goal, the question to answer with our goal is the SVSU students, are they meeting performance of the state? And we were very close. We were very close to meeting where the state was with approaching. You can see our average on the last release score. You can't see very tiny below, but we were 1/8800th. And we were 100th just off what would be meeting. We were very, very close. But it's room to grow.
Why do they do this one different? Why did they just do it like the English one and math one to make it easy for everybody? Is there a reason for that?
I can ask that question. They do this though. They offer this. And so this is how they offer it. And I can tell you, I did not feel comfortable not giving you a deeper dive into how close it was. And the closest thing that we have for raw numbers is what I gave you. Because I would have the question, if I was sitting in your shoes, well, how close is that circle to approaching? And so I wanted you to see with raw numbers, we were close to approaching, but we still have things to do. And so I feel as though my next step is to tell you some examples of what should be next steps for science, what we're looking for with funding. We have title funds that are being used for educators to support science lessons at the elementary level. That's in collaboration with Southern Vermont Healthcare and Bennington College. That's starting this fall, and I hope it continues. There's title funding for some professional learning with STEM activities for the classroom. And I'm super proud to say there's actually a teacher in this school who is going to be heading that particular professional learning. So that's very exciting, and that's going to be offered to all elementary school teachers to help them with that, along with some activities and things they can use, hands-on things they can use in their classroom to bring science alive. And then there are district science curriculum teams that work on prioritizing standards, resources, and grading skills with local funds. So thank you for that. The goals for number 5 is personalization. We were well above as a district with personalization. That is, how are people participating, kids participating in flexible pathways, opportunities for flexible pathways, and completing their personalized learning plan, also known right there in the acronym PLP. So how are we doing with that? We're doing really well. Measured
So
by the
can you
state.
give a concrete example of a flexible pathway that might be available to a kid from Arlington Middle School or high school?
A flexible pathway. Help me with this just because I'm looking over at the principal for something. I want to be very specific and I don't want to name a different.
For flexible pathway.
Would it an internship of some kind?
Either internship,
Yeah.
either our.
I didn't want to misspeak.
Yeah, our collaboration with Southwest Tech,
Yes.
our internships that we have within local businesses or communities. And then we even have some on-the-job training kids.
Thank you. So we are definitely, you can see clearly for personalization, well above the state, and we continue to grow. We do very, very well. That's a result of both high schools. That's only measured at both high schools, just to let you know where they're pulling that from. And so thank you to all of you for funds that help with music and family nights. Those go again into personalization because kids will join things. They also measure how many kids are in your band, how many kids are doing all of those things. And if we don't fund those things at an elementary level and have that be rewarded, then they don't join when they get into older. And then the district secondary leadership team working on those student personalization plans, that's local funds. So now I leave you finally with a piece of what I think eventually you'd want reported out, maybe in the same way, but I would take feedback. And that is last spring, these two different schools, Fisher and Arlington Memorial Middle High, had led by their leadership team, were given the results of their own current buildings scores, knowing that we have to make progress towards that, the June 2027, right? And so they set this school year 3 separate goals for each school. And you can see the first one is for reading for Fisher. And then the second one is for decreasing externalizing behaviors. And the third one is talking about having kids grow and not be at risk for math. And then for Arlington Memorial Middle High, the first one again is about some externalizing behaviors and addressing and decreasing those. And then we wanted to make sure that we are exceeding or meeting the proficiency hierarchies that are one is for ELA or reading, and then the next one is for mathematics. And so those could be reported out to you, but in the same way, you probably want to also see how we're doing, even if it's the circles. And where you find those is where you'll find this presentation. And that is svsu.org, about us, and reports. There's a link right to the webpage to get to this soon, probably tomorrow. And then also a link to get to the state reports. We do not know right now when last spring's reports will be out. This presentation, when I created it, gave you the historically when they released those to the public, and that's February. Since this has been created, there has been one AOE training where they said that's going to be ready earlier than this year. I will do what I always do, and I will watch, and I will let him know as soon as those are up, so that the community can know, and you can see publicly as soon as you can, the results of how our schools are doing. Do I turn it over to Renee?
Melissa, I do have,
Any questions? Yeah.
when you talk about data at the school level.
Yeah.
That's on the website, so you're saying on the website, there will be data, performance data, tracking against those building-specific goals?
That's gonna have to be a presentation at the end of this year. Those building specific goals are for June of 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on you talk about the scorecard and that we are on par with the state in approaching.
Yep.
And I guess I wonder, as a board member, why we're not striving for meeting. And what goals and strategies should we be considering to reach a higher level on that scorecard? Because approaching is not enough. And we know nationally that Vermont is not performing, so being on an approaching, which is on par with state data, doesn't seem like that is a point of distinction for us.
I would say what the board.
I'm not looking for an answer necessarily to put you on the spot, but it just.
I think the only thing I can say, after looking at longitudinal data for the last few years, and I'm not blaming, COVID, but I am saying our schools are recovering, and those are wonderful growth scores. Do I know it can go farther? Yeah, because it was the same people that helped us grow this much, are in these buildings, are teaching all of your kids, are doing the work day in and day out. It continues to grow.
And I think the thing to remember is it's a snapshot.
Yeah.
That data that you're seeing is a snapshot. One of the things that the staff will do, and we have a PD data review coming. The thing that we have talked about over the last 2 years, specifically, even sort of after COVID, is we've set these goals. We monitor progress. You then add 42 new kids to the Fisher Elementary, and that we had no input over their education, and then they're a data point in that following spring. And what does that do? So that we tend to look at kids individually and make sure that they are making progress. So in addition to doing all of those tests, we also do track my progress 3 times a year to monitor kids individually, because even though it will show approaching, if we extrapolated those 42 kids out, what results would you be seeing? So when you add new kids to the curriculum and instruction and goals that you added and have had no control over their pre-K to K and 1 by 3rd grade, or you enter that 3rd grader who is now nonverbal and has to take the test. And so it adds a level to how do we explain this? So I think just remembering that it is a snapshot, and we have other data to show how kids are progressing.
One thing I would add to is, as a long time observer, this is not my area of expertise. Folks in the audience, you'll hear proficiency and you'll hear growth, and they're not interchangeable. You know, proficiency is where we would like you to be at grade level, but there's value in your school and your teachers and high quality instruction. If you can say, because they can tell you, math is one of those tests. If you're in front of a good teacher for a year, you should grow this much. And your teachers can then take a look and say, hey, we do a really good job. And the teachers you really want to see is they exceed what you should have done in a year. And you probably have bright spots in your school. So I've always encouraged staff. Yeah, we're approaching and we're not proficient yet, but you can give your staff credit, you can give your kids credit. They, you know, the long-term study said they should have grown this much. And look at us, man, we really added to this kid here. They're catching up to their peers. So they're not interchangeable. Proficient in growth is not interchangeable, but you can celebrate growth. They tend to be I'm more of a fan of growth than I am of proficiency. Like, go back and give positive feedback to teachers and say you're doing good.
Thank you for the supports of all of the different funding that's been done to lift this work, though. I know that it's appreciated, so thank you.
May, do you want to go? I have your handouts.
Yes, Melissa, could you make me co-host so I can share my screen? But I know Tim is going to hand out hard copies, and what is being handed out is actually part of the packet tonight as well. So essentially, I just kind of want to give you an overview of some of the funding that's actually supporting what Melissa just went over, and the great work that's happening in our schools. Um, so the I couldn't get it all on one page. I apologize. Um, okay, so I can share my screen now.
Be okay, I won't move.
Is that showing up okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So kind of a split screen. I tried to align, so pages 1 and 2, so the front and back are showing you examples of what our federal and state funding are and what they have been for the past 2 years plus the current year's allocations. And then kind of along with that, pages 3 and 4 of the packet are the FTEs that are associated and being funded either fully or in part with some of these grant funds. So on the first page, these are the big formula grants that we get on an annual basis. They are federal grants and they come to us through the Agency of Education. So the first 3 that you see there, Title 1A, Title 2A, Title 4A, are collectively known as the Consolidated Federal Programs. These 3 funding sources actually can be pulled together and they support what are known as the school-wide programs, which all of our schools, being Title I eligible because of our poverty rates, are all school-wide schools. And they can also be pooled to support consolidated administration, which is basically administrative positions that basically support administering the grant, making sure that we're following all the rules, making sure that the funding is budgeted appropriately. So you can see that the funding did take a dip in FY25. It has come back up a little bit for Title I in FY26. And then in italics under each of these, I've noted we are required to share some of these funds with our independent schools. So annually in the spring, we work with all of our independent schools to see if they are, if they want to participate with consolidated federal programs. If they do, they have to share their student counts with us, and then we allocate those funds and double checking them through the grants management system and the amounts of money that have to be allocated to those schools. So just so you can have an idea as to the money that comes in, we do have to share that with other schools. So your Title I money does support some early education. It provides homeless supports, transportation, and a homeless liaison, and some transportation as well. And then we do actually have some of our independent schools have enough funding that it supports actually a partial FTE. So we have interventionists serving some of those schools. Title II really focuses on supporting effective instruction. So we have coaching there. And that also does a lot of professional learning, professional development, mentoring, coaching. So a lot of some of the work that Melissa was just talking about comes from Title II. And then Title IV, there's 3 facets of Title IV to support a well-rounded education, safe and healthy schools, and effective use of technology. So we have staffing in there, which are our equity coordinators, behavior coaches, and you notice on the right side of the screen in the gray areas, I've kind of shaded them. We've had to reduce the FTEs funded through some of these sources. So I have them shaded if they've been completely eliminated from these funding. Part of that is because of the increased cost of salaries and benefits, but also too something that folks might not be aware of is that several years ago there was legislation passed that anyone that is being funded in part or in full through a federal grant that is an licensed educator and participates with the Vermont State Teacher Retirement System. Whatever we pay them funding wise, there is a 25%, and that has varied. It was 20% a few years ago. Currently for this year, 25.47% of the money that we pay to them has to be taken right off the top and goes into the teacher retirement system. So those are your title grants. And then we have Title 4B is also known as our 21st Century Grant, which we just received for the first time last year. So the only full FTE that we have with that position is our project director, but it is supporting all of our after school and summer programming. Title I School Improvement, we have 4 schools that were identified for comprehensive support. So we do have some FTEs associated with those as well. We are currently in the last year of the Title I School Improvement funding. So none of the, neither of the Arlington schools are in comprehensive supports. So this doesn't apply. And an IDEA, we have not two little buckets of money. The pre-K bucket is a little bit smaller than the regular IDEA, but I've rolled them both together here for your illustration. And you do have some staff that are funded through IDEA. And the IDEA money, Individuals with Disabilities Act, supports intervention and special education services. So with that money, we do have quite a bit of, as you can see, FTEs funded there. And it also provides the funding for our summer services, so extended year services or extended school year, depending upon how some people refer to it. And we also have a lot of contracted services that we use in IDEA, including speech and language pathology, psychology, board certified behavior analysts, clinicians, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and things of that nature. So that's a really broad overview. One thing I did, oops, that's not the one I wanted to. So earlier this year, when the federal government put a pause on funding, it was Title II and Title IV. So the $622,000 and the $513,000, it was unsure whether or not those funds were going to come through at all. And right now we are awaiting what might be happening at the federal level. Sorry, I'm trying to stop sharing, and I don't know if that's actually.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
The budget that they are not able to settle on right now at the federal level would include funding for our next fiscal year. So there are folks at the Agency of Education that are monitoring closely what is happening at the federal level. And they report out to us weekly with any, updates and they haven't been able to provide much at this point. But hopefully, we will have a good sense of what we will be getting for funding next year, ahead of budget season. But we do know that, again, rising salaries and insurance costs are putting pressure on, along with what's required to go into the teacher retirement system. So I didn't get into all of the other smaller grants on the back sides, but the information is there. Happy to answer any questions that you might have, but just kind of wanted to tack on to what Melissa had presented to show you where some of that money comes from to support all the good work that's happening. Thank you.
Not a question, and I know this is not in your control, but being a smaller entity in a large entity, when you're talking about proportional share of grant money based on students, our student count could remain the same of students who qualify for services. and another school's student count increases. So the proportional share then shifts, which means more monies go to the school with the higher need. Even if our number of students being served by that position, we ran into this with the reading position. Our number of students being served is not decreasing, but our FTE is decreasing. And it's not, I get that it's not your system, but it is a real struggle to make sure that because then if we start providing fewer services because our proportional share of the total is now smaller, we're still trying to meet the needs of the kids. But we have fewer bodies to try to meet those needs. Or at least fewer bodies paid for through the grants. We have to fund it through our general budget.
Nope, you're absolutely right. It's definitely, it's how the structure works, and we have to rank them, and the funding has to follow where the need is within the whole organization.
Yeah. I appreciate Melissa and Renee, and I appreciate the chair. We've gone a little longer than I anticipated, but the thing I would like for the community to hear is that, the level of uncertainty is not helpful. We've sat in school board associations, superintendents associations, business officers meetings just in the last month. And these are professionals who've been in the position much longer than I am. And my takeaway as a rookie leaving those rooms is the uncertainty. We're going to be asking school boards and communities to build budgets in November and December when big pieces of your budget are unknown. And so the next time we come back, I'm going to bring one pager to share with everybody. I'll make sure there's copies. Voting on your school budget, and then the long and traveled road that it is to determining your local property taxes. I don't know if that's a big conversation in this community. I'm kidding. It's a big one where I live.
It does full presentations on that too.
I'm a resident of Pownell. And so we'd like to bring that to folks to show that school board making its best attempt to build a reasonable, responsible budget. And there are so many unknowns going into it. And then the frustration that I hear from my community members and your community members and taxpayers of like, are you kidding me? I voted on this percentage and my tax bill showed up. So I hope to bring more information in the next meeting and share that with folks. It's certainly been an eye opener for me as I've been in the job for 3 months, but I appreciate the board giving us time this evening to share some information.
2 years ago, we did a full presentation on exactly how property taxes are calculated based on budget and all the things that go into it.
And it boiled down to one page.
I broke it, well, it was a presentation. It was multiple pages, and I tried to make it as simple as I possibly could. In a very complicated way.
I appreciate
Educational finance. Okay, thank you both for the presentations. Excellent. Helpful. We have made it through finance. Next, we have policies. We have policy number 6190, holiday observation. Observance to be adopted. 1025, public complaints about personnel to be adopted. 1090, use of school facilities to be adopted. 5156, student nutrition and wellness to be adopted. Two more to be one, but start with the adopted. Is there a motion to adopt those four?
I make the motion to adopt them. I did.
And we need a second. We'll discuss. There's a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now discussion.
I just noticed in the use of school facilities, how it said it was some of the things that we're supposed to pay, and I talked to Todd, I guess that he said we haven't done that in the past, so I hope that's not gonna change.
Yeah, really, the way it reads is something superintendent to set the fees, but we've never charged. My explanation was the only time we've ever charged for use of our facilities is if it requires one of our custodial or maintenance staff to be present. Then we charge whatever the cost is for that. It's not to create revenue, it's to meet our costs. Anticipate that would be with superintendent. Moving forward.
Another item on that is that these are policies that were warned a year ago. Full year ago. So, at the last SVSU meeting, Tim did ask for, authorization to work with VSBA to do a full policy audit to get a better handle on where we are as an organization. It shouldn't take a year to get policies warned and adopted. So something about our system's not working.
That audit should be done, by the middle of December, so we'll be sharing that out to boards.
Any other discussion on those? Okay, all those in favor?
Right.
Anybody opposed? Next, we have a warning of home study programs, number 6382, and electronic communications between employees and students, number 4450. Is there a motion to warn those two?
I'll make a motion to welcome those two.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion on that. Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? We heard you, Jess. Next, we have operations. First item under there is our basement issue. Just as a refresher, we have had some mildew slash odor coming from the vestibule and guidance area. We have explored that, ripping up the floor twice, putting the vapor barrier up here. And long story short, it appears that it is a vapor barrier issue in the basement. There used to be, please correct me if I'm wrong.
There is some plastic on the floor. It was now envelope, everything there, so the walls are still keeping some moisture, especially in the back and forth. There's just constant moisture down there. It's not all concrete floor, there's a dirt floor down there too. And it still sits on ledge, so there's constant moisture coming up through. This is the easiest place for it to get up through because it's 2 wood floors. This has carpet and laying and all kinds of this stuff through this area. Front office, the vestibule, hallway right here seem to be worst areas where it penetrates up through. Probably did have Vermont home insulators come in. Specialists when it comes to that. They did a proposal for them and invited 3 different companies, so they were the only one that showed up. Right around $40,000 to do this entire way. Couple of the biggest problems is our lighting. We have no lighting down there. So our access down there. I did do some investigating about possibly building a doghouse out here with a port foundation around it. And bigger access directly outside. That ended up being like $25,000, so everything to be put together. So I would assume that's well out the window.
Maybe a $65,000 project.
Yep. But in any event, there's a lot of stuff down there that was probably put in there prior to the building being built on top of it with the fire in 1940. So there's a lot of stuff that has to come out. Comes out of a 30 by 30 opening is really our only access in there. There is another access area. It's clogged with pipes, sewage lines and everything else. So that we really can't get anything through. One access comes out into the office for the kitchen, and then it has to go out through the closet, down through the kitchen and out. As well as everything that comes in to be all the insulation, the spray foam, everything that they proposed, as well as gravel and stuff to lay on top of it, all would have to come in through that same door. So there's a lot to making that project work. Issue that's been ongoing is really pushing to get it done. It needs to be done. And his health and welfare.
So the quote from Vermont Foam Insulators is not just vapor barrier, it also includes sealing exterior foundation walls, covering the dirt crawl space with vapor barrier, as well as crushed stone. It is a 15 thermal barrier coating that they put over everything. They put in drainage mat as well. Foundation, which would be this side, covering all exposed foam with a thermal barrier coating. Makes it fire retardant, is my understanding, and is required by code. And their total quote is $39,041. Since I emailed this to you guys earlier, just for your review.
Is there a guarantee that that'll work?
So in speaking with him when he was here, I went through and crawled under this part and stand under. It's, even I have to bend over, but when you get to the other end, it's crawl space only. It's about 4 feet high. It's broke up by the classrooms. It's a difficult area to get into. Basically, he said, yes, it will work because we're sealing all the moisture out of the building. Nothing is coming to the building. I had talked, Todd and I had talked when we did this project about possibly putting in some vents. He was very much against the vents. As much as you think you're letting air out or moisture out during the summer, the humidity and everything else, you're actually inviting moisture in. So he was against that point. We need to thoroughly seal this. And not gonna dig up the entire outside. So. yeah.
So my next question is, you say this was an ongoing thing. How long has this been going on?
It's been going on for a long time. We've tried different things to try and
10 years ago? Was it-
it's as bad as it is now. I would say in the last 5 years, it's gotten considerably worse.
So no idea what's changed in 5 years.
I don't know what's changed. Groundwater,
Disintegration.
groundwater in here. That Todd and I have talked about that, and we had Nate in to do a bunch of exploratory stuff. We were gonna change the piping out that. We had, in that 4 inches of rain that we had a couple weeks ago, it literally flooded the basement downstairs. Nate was here. We've gone through a bunch of things on the outside to try and help get some of that water further away from the building. But something underground has changed to put more moisture coming inside the basement of the building. Both this section and down into the boiler room basement area. Nate will be back to do some more digging up there, drop the drains lower. So hopefully we can catch more of it into the drains, but drains are completely open. They're perforated. They should be taking any water that's out there. And I don't know, we're kind of trying to figure this out. You know, Mother Nature's throwing us a curve.
But with all the work that the town has done on drainage, town and that residential property has done on drainage issues just down the street. I mean, it's not just here.
Not just here, it's listen, so several of these houses down here used to mow all the way back to the woods. They can't anymore because there's so much more water in there. We don't know where it's coming. I mean, it's coming off, it's coming out of the ground. Why it's changed, I have no idea. But things have changed around here. I don't know what your property is like up there on the hill. It's wet, dry. So, I mean, we used to have a reservoir up here behind Kenny Smith's. Maybe since that got shut down, that's changed water flows. I don't know.
The other thing is, you at one point had a vapor barrier over,
There was,
it disintegrates with time, which is what this is done.
Yeah.
And that is what prevents that moisture. There's no way to prevent moisture from coming up from the ground other than the vapor. There's just no way of doing it. We've looked at the wood there, like, that's why we pulled up the floor. There is no mold or mildew under it. the, so it is all coming from the front basement area. And we initially thought at one point before we fixed the roof here, that window leaked. We thought maybe it was in the window in the wall, that was all torn out. Not the case. They found a small section. Heater leaked at one point, found a small section there. That's why it's been a series of explorations to try to figure this out. We're really essentially determined this basement has to be completely resealed. Since unfortunately, the only way to do that. Right. We could send our people down there, it's not right.
Efficiency Vermont, Holly is working with Efficiency Vermont on this because we are thermally sealing it and that provides a better better heating for our building as well. They're potentially going to throw some money to us for this project as well. How much, I don't, Holly hasn't yet. But she was working with them on,
I don't think we have a choice, we gotta fix it, so.
we've got to fix it. And like when we were down there calling around, he's like, all this stuff that's got to come out, you need to have a suit on and a mask out when you're taking it down. He's like, it's got a lot of crap down here that needs to come out. So I explored the doghouse doorway issue because that's 30 by 30 opening down there. It's gonna be a nightmare to work with. I don't know what else at this point to do with it, so. Other than we've got the proposal.
Just trying to find, we don't have a policy, I mean, on a project of this size, with this cost, to only have one bid.
She attempted to get one. Others did not want.
They don't want to do it.
I mean, I don't know if there's, Vermont foam insulation is by far the largest foam insulator in the state of Vermont, especially in southern. There are other spray foam insulators, but they probably wouldn't want a project of this size. It is 60 feet long by 16 feet wide. That's going through a 30-inch by 30-inch hole.
It just, when we've had multiple bids on projects in the past, there's been such a range that it's hard to know where this falls in the market.
Well, I can tell you, I had Vermont insulation come in and give quotes on doing some work at my house. And nowhere near this size. And that work was $7,000. So when I looked at this quote, I was not shocked at all. I actually thought it was extremely reasonable compared to what yeah.
This would be helpful, I mean, it just would be helpful to have it some sort of benefit.
Yeah. I even did some calculations, like based on 4 yards of crushed stone. We know what crushed stone costs per yard right now. Like they're well within. Well, I put on the agenda to have an action requested. We have to get this done. One of Dan's requests is that we have a timeline of getting this done. Set forth, and I think we have to do this. We've been working with Jim for at least a year on this. With different operations. I think this is our last and final step to have this done. Is my opinion.
Work can begin, though, to get the stuff out, while Holly determines whether or not Efficiency Vermont will offer any assistance in this cost. Because you have to be out of the building for what, 48 hours? With the spray foam?
Yeah, I would think it
Suggested because of the fumes that it
Yeah.
generates. Also, taking everything out is going through the commons, so you. It's gonna be very, very difficult to get it out of here. While school is in session, everything has gotta come out. Because we're going right through our food, through our cafeteria.
What's the logistical recommendation then on how this gets done?
shoot for Christmas break, 2 weeks later.
Wait, to clear everything out. I think our Christmas break is a little longer this year.
These 2 full weeks this year. So then.
I'm at a loss, because I really thought we would find some lot of wood. That was causing the odor, and I took down half of that office and replaced everything, put new flooring in. It seemed okay for a couple of days, and then it smelled like.
I think it's on the board to authorize the work. And whether efficiency or not pays for some of this or not. If they do, great. If they don't, we, in my opinion, we have to pay what you. And then we can work with. For them. In terms of the general budget or.
Yes.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we do what we got, no choice. It's gone on way too long.
Okay, we have a motion.
Motion to what?
Yeah, I need a little more detail. Is it to accept Vermont spray foam?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Vermont foam insulations. Bid? Motion,
Yes.
very useless.
I still.
Any further discussion on? Hearing none, all those in favor? Anybody
Aye.
opposed? I think that was not, right, Jess?
Yes, it was, sorry.
Thanks. Wanted to make sure.
And I would say, Deanne, I took too long, I'm sorry, you had to do this, so.
Okay, that is that. Jamie, you had some other
Yeah.
facilities updates?
Yeah.
Just transportation.
So we also had two roofing companies in to look at our rubber membrane roof on all the flat areas up here. The two quotes from them. 134 and 185, something like that for those two. Oh, we don't have that in the budget anywhere.
That's something we're gonna have to, like, budgeting next.
So, in any event, our rubber roof is deteriorating very fast. It's well beyond its years. It was done in 1994. It's a 20-year roof, so got an extra 11 years out of it so far. Is another very large upcoming expense. As far as down below, with the bus area, got the electric buses in, we had the chargers and stuff put in. And a couple things that we've come up with, when the building came down, we also took out the outlets that run the heaters for our diesel buses. So we need to get those back in on the timers. So that is part of a proposal I got, as well as backside of the bus is against the woods and it is extremely dark down. So first thing in the morning, I leave at 6:45 and you can't see your hand in front of your face. So I did have Randy come in, give me some pricing on running the power down there, along with the outlets, running power down there and putting lights at each of the charging stations, which would shine between the buses so that we could go up and see plugs out, put the charger in and stuff. Rich can attest to that. It's difficult to do in the dark. And the other thing that I talked with Holly about was possibly building a small roof over top of it that would house the light, also keep the charger and all that stuff a little drier with all the snow. Because the trees hang over it, that stuff drops all the time, to help protect the chargers and give us a base to mount the lights to. Got one pricing on that, I was like $6,400 for the little shed roofs, another $5,800 for all the electrical down there. And that's with asking the town to do the digging for us so that they don't have to hand dig. All that kind of stuff. So those are two projects there that would like to see done before winter, if at all possible.
Jamie, I asked for a formal request with bids for next meeting on those things.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can approve tonight.
Yep, no, I know, I just wanted to get it out there that we're working on them, so. Forecast not looking good, so snow, a lot of cold, and just trying to get ahead of it before we get to that. Updates. I think everything else we've talked about in the past, the ditching at Fisher down along through the town, put in the new culvert, it's taking a ton more water. The ditch around there to the little bridge that goes over to Happy Days is really filling up with a lot of debris and stuff, so that does need to get ditched out.
And that's not a town ditch. Remember that?
It's not, the only part they're actually responsible for is the good road. They dig clean the ditch up this way further, just to try and eliminate some of the debris. But, once it comes out, if it hits our lawns, it's ours to include. It's from James and from Nate. That is one. We'd also talked about the parking, and there's been a few issues with parking with the library, some things going on there, so that's a project I'd still like to see happen at some point. On the roadway from the red building back up toward the library.
I would ask those things recently for budget. Yeah, well, yeah, budget time, right?
The only,
We want things to me that we can handle.
the only other
Words or
Yep, big thing would be the floor at Fisher, recoating. It's about $25,000. Cause it's at a point in its life that's an epoxy board out there. It's at a point in its life where now, where they used to put 3 millimeters of coating on it. Manufacturers now says it's hit this point, it needs to be between double and triple that thickness, so the pricing right through the roof. As everything has.
So, and the good news is, if it holds true based on Renee's projections, and she's usually spot on the money. With some surplus this year, we can ask the voters to boost back up our sinking funds. We haven't done that in the last couple of years because we've utilized the money to keep the tax rate down. This is probably a year that we have to boost those back up and start addressing some of these facility needs with savings as opposed to asking. You know, right time. So that's why I would say let's, things like that, we address it budget time. Yeah. But I'm okay unless the board disagrees with you. I mean, to me, the lighting and the annual, the safety of the charging stations is a little more immediate. So I'd like to see a formal proposal of the next.
Right.
We can discuss that.
Yep. Yep.
Disagree with that?
We did have our safety inspection of all of our area equipment, basketball hoops, bleachers, all that stuff. There is, some need of repairs. The basketball hoops. And the bleachers as well, not significant, probably about $8,000 altogether. Would normally come out of my contracted services fund I use for them. So there will be some of that stuff coming on. And I think, and do you have anything else that we had talked about? I think for the most part, everything else is running okay.
It's the letter that we received on the electric bus sort of feedback, is that being,
Not that now or in the transportation.
well, I don't think that we need it line by line, but it would be good to know what's going to be done to address the issues that have been raised.
So, you all got the letter that Rich had put together and I signed my name to it as well. We have been having some issues with the electric buses. Some of it is being taken care of. I've sent to Todd, I believe he sent to you guys today. There are some things that have been we've got pricing on to repair or fix. I don't know if we should be paying labor on some of this stuff, because I think it was fault of the manufacturer when it came in. So, The electric buses, we have not had them inspected by DMV. However, they were here and inspected our diesel buses. Bus 4, newest diesel, has got an illegal exhaust on it. They, Anderson was here today and dropped off a bunch of exhaust parts for that. Like the guy goes tomorrow. Pays to fix that. That's coming from Anderson. That's Uber's problem, not ours. The other big thing that they picked up on when they were here. I think buses should have. On the past has been a little unclear as to exactly what they are required to have. The DMV did send me BSA, or I don't know. There's a law about it, that states that back in 2024, the legislature did enact a law that they do have to have blue bumpers. So, as I said, I had Anderson here today dropping off parts, we went through a whole bunch of this other stuff. One of the problems is cameras as well, but back to the bumpers, they asked for local body shops to be able to paint them, take them off, or whatever. So I suggested 2 to them, Richardson's in Bennington down on Belmont, to maybe paint the bumpers. I also, at Rich's suggestion, gave them White Rocks. They do this graphics and all that, but they also do wraps. So maybe a wrap will be a cheaper and quicker way of taking care of that. So they were contacting them. That is not on us either. That's on them. One of the biggest things that's going on is the preconditioning of buses, and that is when plugged in buses turn on, the heat comes on, and the batteries are warmed prior to us going out in the morning or throughout the day. So right now, we get there, they're not started, they're not running. We go to leave, we've got to turn the heat on. Our battery consumption is super fast. I do a 27-mile route in through Sandgate and West Arlington, and I'm using 60 to 70% of my battery, only running 1 heater or 2 on a low fan. If I've got to run them all because it's 0 out, we're not going to get the range out of these. We're not getting the range now. Just went to Poultney. It's 34 miles one way, 78 round trip, 68 round trip. I was down under a quarter of my battery. So we need these preconditioned, and some of that program is done. Bunch of little things that you guys have all seen on the list here. The camera system, again, we've got a couple broken camera brackets. Right now, we don't have access to visually see what's going on, so we can't pull the data from the cameras. So the camera company is supposed to be contacting me tomorrow. You can walk me through and set me up on that. Defrost has been an issue in these, the front windshield specifically. It's very tiny slits in the windshield, and as soon as you get a bunch of kids in there, those windows frost up and they do not clear up well. Wiping them. Rich has had probably the worst problem with them.
Is there a solution for that?
I don't know, so that's why I addressed it with them today. I said, we need to find something out really quick, because we got 24 degrees coming up tomorrow morning, Friday morning, so. Just a bunch of little things going on, but
Things like
stuff that needs to get addressed, and it seems like it's been lagging. Brought it up multiple times, just taking forever to get these things taken care of. And we're driving them into the winter, and these things aren't addressed, they're gonna get parked.
Well, I mean, we knew there was gonna be shortcomings, and that's why we
Yep.
chose to buy new diesel as well.
Yep.
Well, I guess from my perspective, if there's things that weren't necessarily ordered on the bus, say, I'm just using this as an example, so no, but heated mirrors. And you need heated mirrors, then let's get heated mirrors.
Yep.
You know, if there's a solution to fix, to make the bus safer for your drivers, let's figure out that solution.
$666.38 plus labor to install.
I mean, that's a, no, you like, that's not even something we need to, like, approve. That should just be something we need to do, in my opinion.
There's no child left behind system, so that you go to the back of the bus, you walk through, you make sure there's nobody left on that bus, you press the button. That wasn't put in on bus forward. It is not a Vermont state law, but it is something that we have on every other bus that we have down. The 8-way lights on bus 4, don't know why, they came through with just halogen bulbs. Strobe, they don't flash or anything. So we did get a price on replacing them with LED strobe flashing $435 for all 8 lights. So
I mean, that's all stuff that.
those are things that
Those are-
visibility.
Big enough. In terms of the, in my opinion, in terms of the warranty stuff, we should be submitting all this in writing so we can document it. That way. If it's not addressed, we have an attorney that can address it.
I've sent multiple emails to them. They've got this as well as the other list that we had. They've been gone through most of this stuff multiple times in writing, in person,
And Holly's in the loop. on all
just
this.
taking, Holly knows all of this, yeah. It's just taking forever to get some of these in. I don't know if it's because they're in Rhode Island. I don't know why we didn't get other quotes in, and again, it could be the same as the phone, but, you know, International has a bus that has a battery twice the size of this, gives you 220 miles of range, as opposed to the.
We, in terms of ordering, we didn't.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it all out there, so we heard it all. So, I guess our biggest problem right now is the lack of drivers. Rich is, I dropped my hunting trip out west next week. Because we don't have drivers. Rich is gone the following week. That's gonna leave me 2 drivers. Couple subs here and there, which we're not gonna be able to cover everything, so. I got a couple ideas, we got a couple ideas there, maybe help with that, but. A different room to talk about.
It's a big one.
Yeah, and Ned has been great on helping with all that too. These other drivers and.
To both of you, thank you very much for. We're gonna drive these buses, so thanks for keeping us in the loop on that stuff. And I'll say it again, and then if there's things that make your bus safer. $1,000 total.
$3,000.
You should just.
I will get everything ordered tomorrow.
Nothing quick, that's all budgetary stuff, it doesn't pay required. Next, principals.
I think second on my system, it's why I'm being by 7th, they don't have enough money. And we didn't meet in September, but I'm gonna kind of leave September, just so let you know kind of where we're headed. We're starting to prep for, the GIST days, and professional development for those, as well as I have met with, Martha Canfield Library and GNAT and Riley Brink to talk about what options they could also offer our families on those Wednesday afternoons. There won't be any options at Martha Canfield, but there will be options at GNAT and Riley Brink with a minimum number of kids to participate. And both of them have that. So the structure is the same. It's for the 10 weeks, their offerings. And so we're working through those, and those went out to families today. In the community email, and will go out Friday, the newsletter. And we are continuing our required lost fire and lockdown drills, have all been completed at both schools. And next Tuesday, the 14th, will be our fire prevention day with our department. They will come into the schools again as they do every year. Prepared for that on obviously our fall sports are well underway, with a full schedule. And the John Warner tournament was fabulous, very well attended, lots of community support. And the Nurses Association is currently doing our vision and hearing screenings. Just to say that we so appreciate our community support and the services they offer us from your fire department association, now partnering with GNAT. Again, going to partner with Ryan Brink. And just one note, and our PTG is now, I don't know if you had realized this, but our PTG is now Arlington PTG. So they are in the process of planning dances and events for the middle and high school as well. You'll hear more upcoming events about that. And we're doing district-wide Spirit Week. And I just want to let you know that we did hold a presentation by John Halligan back on September 3rd to kick off the year. He did his presentation about his son Ryan. It's called Ryan's Story. It was a focus on bullying and suicide. It's very well received by the students and continue to be talked about in advisory.
I did get your email about the film screening.
Yes.
I have not followed up on that yet, but I,
There's a showing in Rutland. Jim Baker asked me if we would be interested. I was like, I know there was already talk about it.
Yeah.
Coming to the commons, so we'd be happy to kind of.
they're doing monthly movies and talks, and they have one planned for October already. I don't know what the November plan is, but that's a common library collaboration, so.
I was just gonna touch with you with transportation. Cause I know the bus situation's been going back and forth, so we don't have enough drivers now, or we do have enough drivers now.
We currently do not have enough drivers. As Jamie said, we have two current full-time drivers. The problem comes when there are multiple sports runs. And as we get to the end of the fall season, we're trying to get the games in and we don't necessarily create the schedule, but everyone has the same problem. We've tried to cancel games, reschedule games, move games to different times to try to accommodate. We've dropped teams off early, come back with regular run. Most families have been supportive of if they need to leave at 2:30 and do a run and do a double run. And then we hold on to kids till 3:15. I think it's not ideal, but it's what we have to do in order to kind of.
What about like we take kids down to the tech school, does Burton do that too, or? They,
We do five, we do three runs.
They pick up here in the morning.
Yeah.
Southwest Tech. We pick up at 10:10. We take it down at 11:15 and we pick up at 1:55. Those are some that are sub drivers are able to do easier during the day because they've got other jobs that most of them are other drivers for other schools as well. But they've got to get back to do their other runs.
So that's not usually a problem with runs.
Those aren't normal unless we have field trips. So tomorrow,
The other thing, right, the other thing is field trips they do. I mean, and these are, the apple picking, the pumpkin patch, the things that we would normally do.
Yeah.
building,
Hildene, and then 7th and 8th are going to Fort Ticonderoga.
even at 8 o'clock and not back until 5 o'clock. So that leaves 2 drivers for the runs, Southwest tax, all that. I do have sub coming in. One of the newest subs is coming in tomorrow. Rich is gonna bring her on the electric buses first thing in the morning. So that she's getting integrated into it.
I did talk with Holly too about, we've been trying to meet with Southwest Tech and Burberry, because Southwest Tech does do the runs to Burberry. So we're trying to piggyback based on the number of students, because they are there in the afternoon, then why are we going down if you can fit the kids
Yeah.
per bus. So, we just haven't been able to get everyone at the table.
Got some of the larger numbers we've had this year. 13 in the morning, 11.
Well, except that some of our kids, so our numbers are dwindling because they're dropping, but, some of the afternoon kids also participate in sports, so it hasn't been conducive, so they have been driving themselves with parent permission, because otherwise they would miss the bus. That has to leave at 1:50 because their class goes to 1:55. So, that's been an easy thing to coordinate.
Nick, who does the burn ones? Is that burn or is it Southwest?
No, it's not, it's,
Yeah, I don't know
they've
how
got
many-
their short buses.
I don't know how many runs they do, but that would mean they drive right by, right? So, I mean, that's why Holly's trying to get everyone at the same table to say, how many kids are you sending? How many kids we have? Can we, we've done that for a few sports runs. We've sort of partnered with Mike Malloy and saying, hey, we have X number, we only have 5 cross-country runners. Can we go with you? When we pick them all, then we absolutely.
Nick potentially has another full-time bus driver going on, and it is my understanding. So that's. We may have,
Apparently, so went to test and couldn't schedule said test, and it's a long process, so like has an appointment like in 4 weeks. And then,
Yes. Yes. Well, the first one. But yes.
You gotta go.
you're 2 minutes late. So next we have chair's report. The only thing I really have is governance update, Nicole and sent some stuff out as well. The only, not a lot to report in terms of governance. As far as I'm aware of, I know that there's been one map tentatively put out, which basically follows the, tech centers. Essentially the counties and a little bit more. They're still projecting that they will be 2 more maps coming out prior to the deadlines. Have been in contact with representatives and senators. Just regularly seeking updates as best they can. So I don't have a ton to report on that. I don't know.
An opportunity to meet with legislators on Monday. We hope to meet again in November before the Thanksgiving holiday. Taking more information on anything for them to. We appreciate that a number of them showed up, including representatives from Manchester and Bennington, so. Listen to us for about an hour, I think we have concerns, so. There's opportunities, through superintendents associations, school board associations, all these groups are currently gathering as much as feedback as possible from them.
Can I send you the information? I think you are getting it now too from rural schools.
Yeah.
To try to get something out to the community to solicit input into that survey.
Yeah.
Something from the SVSU that could go out to the entire school community that we could potentially put on Front Porch Forum. I'm a little concerned just in hearing what other communities are doing for community engagement that we're not.
Yeah.
And want to make sure that we don't get lost in the shuffle in this process. The redistricting task force, they had 2 members who came to the regional VSBA meeting. There is a summary. Leon and I were the 2 who attended from the SVSU. There is a summary of the Q&A that I can, or did Jim send that out?
Jim sent it. Yes.
Okay.
Cause I haven't, they must have came from Jim.
Yeah. They are holding public hearings. There's one tomorrow one on the 16th, one on the 22nd, and one on the 28th. So there are 4 public hearings that are being organized by the redistricting task force. Rutland is the closest one, but they all have a Teams meeting component. Maybe that can go out too, for people to be aware. There is a public input portion of that, of each of those meetings, public testimony. Again, I'm worried that the composition of the task force, the vocal nature of the VRSU, the nebulous place that we're sort of in all of this, that we don't always seem to be front of mind about how these changes will impact this region.
On a positive note, the SVSU board's made it a goal this year for
Yep.
itself, first goal setting in a while.
Yep.
Being aware of what Act 73 and creating a communication plan, all those good forward steps.
Yeah. So if I could share this with you and Katie could work on getting something to communicate out, that would be great.
Okay, that's all I have for chairs report. Yeah.
The slate repair. Got a couple months ago.
We can approve it tonight, so you send it to us next month. There's just no way we can approve. I'm looking at that.
I given it to you in August. That to slate repair. $500.
I mean, again, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but something like 5,500 worth of roof repair shouldn't come, but we shouldn't have to make that decision. That's something that has to get done, just get done. If you then come to us and say, hey, we don't have $5,500 in our maintenance to pay for that, and you need us to take out a roof fund, that's what you come to us with. That's the way I look at that. Am I wrong in that? I just want to make sure, like, if you need $20,000 or something like that, that's a different ballgame, right? You know, but $5,500 shouldn't destroy our $10 million budget. If it does, we have problems. To me, that should just be done as a maintenance thing and keep money out of the roof fund, come present it and I don't know, $60,000 maybe. Sure.
One quick point, and I can send this out, but Tim's mentioned the SVSU board has taken 3 working sessions to develop goals. So we have 3 goals for the SVSU. Tim has built his goals off of that. There's a new superintendent performance evaluation policy that has been initiated. Scott's intent, Scott McEnany, the SVSU board chair, the intent is to take the SVSU goals and begin to work then with the member district boards to develop goals that support those overarching goals. When that will happen, I don't know, but the 3 goals are not in specific language: align SVSU's strategic priorities to budget investments, cultivate strong board superintendent partnership by developing a shared, transparent understanding of the roles and responsibilities, and the Act 73 engagement. Those are the 3 SVSU goals.
Thank you. All right, I have nothing else for chairs. We have an FYI, your budget status is closed. We had a great discussion about that. We do have a very quick executive session. There will be no action taken out of it. It's just an update. So I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session under VSA 313 contracts.
Hi, this is Jess. Are you still okay with me not participating in that since you know all of our info?
Yeah, it's just an update, yes. No decisions to be made. You're already aware of it.
Thank you.
And is Nick coming in?
Okay. I would.
I know. This week.
Pause, no, pause. Stop will then end it, pause will let you restart it.